Very nice, Eric.
Yes. Hi, Timothy.
Yeah, what's up, Timothy? Finally, my team's updated there. You're on mute if you were trying to talk, just in case you didn't know.
Me? Am I still muted?
No, Timothy,
Oh, okay. Did something change?
right? How you doing there? Is it B Hey? BJ?
Fake.
Hey, it's fire. It's fire.
Fire.
Fire. Ah, man, I
hmm
mean, that's why I'm an engineer. I wasn't reading wasn't my strong suit. So numbers worked better for me.
It's an odd one.
Well,
Flower
nice to
hawk,
have you
though.
here. Thanks for joining. We still
Well,
with Jeffrey?
welcome, everybody. I'll give it another minute or so.
Yeah. See who else trickles on in.
Well, we can go ahead and start, and then, you know, if anyone joins a little late, they can always catch up with the recording that goes out. So,
Works
good
for me.
morning and good afternoon, everybody. We're excited to be back for our eighth installment of our Get a Grip webinar today, the Parcel Induction Saga Part 1. We did have to postpone this for a week, and, many of you are in our industry and understand that we just had to take a moment to catch our breath after ProMat. So thank you for your patience on that. Today, Alex is going to talk you through our origin story where you'll learn more about our thought processes and how we arrived at certain milestones, some of our failures and how we use those to overcome challenges, and how we've standardized success within our organization, leading us to become the industry leader in parcel induction in North America and in Europe. My name is Lisa O'Brien, and I'll be your host today. A few quick notes before we get started. We encourage this to be conversational. We're still a small group. So please feel free to turn on your cameras so we can get to know you. And if you have a question, you can raise your hand. We'll call on you during the webinar, or you can put it in the chat. We'll try and get to it during the presentation. And also, I've allotted time at the end too to address any questions. And then lastly, this is being recorded and will go out in an email to everybody. But before we dive in, let's welcome Alex Berry as our presenter today. Alex, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. Awesome to have you guys here. And For anybody just joining, hasn't been to a webinar before, kind of had the same format, kind of who I am, how long I've been at Plus One, what I do here, and then this was from ProMat, so I know it looks like we're having a lot of fun. Trust me, guys, there was work being done there too, but this was a fun video Lisa made, and it did make me laugh because the robots did have to pick up all the stuff, and I played pickleball terribly, but it was still fun. So today we're going to jump into, like Lisa said, the kind of origin story of Plus One, and the reason I want to kind of cover this topic, maybe more than a few reasons, and this will be maybe a shorter webinar than some, but I want the broader audience, our partners and our end users, to understand how we got to where we're at now with parcel induction, depalletization, palletization, how we kind of while we approach the problems the way we do, while we have the core values that we have as a company, and what that means when you work with us or when you use our technology in your facility, so you kind of maybe know what to expect a little bit more. So I'm kind of going to cover from 2011-ish to 2022. And this kind of backstory in 2022 is kind of the breaking year, and I'll get to the point of that later in this webinar. Oops, too far. So agenda, for all you programmers out there, you're going to get the joke of hello world. For people who are not, it's fine, but it's just something that if you learn to do a programming language, pretty much the first thing you always learn how to do is hello world, and that is you're, say, stepping into or showing the world like I'm here, right? Then we'll go through human in a loop. We'll go through things that change in the supply chain, packages and other stuff. We'll talk about the job to be done and why gravity and other physical forces are there. Then I'm going to highlight one specific failure that we had and what we learned and how we came through that to build something successful for that customer, say at the second at bat. And then we'll kind of recap a bit. So jump straight in. Hello world. This is a old video, obviously for 2013 Automate. So a couple years after Sean had been at Willow Garage and built Ross Industrial, so that open source software and vision software via Ross could communicate with industrial robots through their protocols. So this was a while back when this was built, but this specific video, I mean, it's funny enough now, right? Because we've all seen now, humanoid robots and AMRs. If you've been to trade shows and seen robots going super fast and doing crazy complicated things, this kind of, looks like a high school project or something. But this this was some state of the art business back there 12 years ago, which is two robots or just things show up randomly to a robot, either the robot that's picking and dropping them off or that robot that's picking it up and then doing something with it, like organizing it or putting it in different places based on the vision knowledge of what it picked up. Right. And the reason I wanted to highlight this video is specifically because this is very old. This is 3 years before Plus One was even a company, but this is still the same type of approach that we take today. So like the same foundation of thought, right? And it's very simple. It's a very simple thought, which it still embodies a lot of our QA processes as far as our software releases. It embodies things that we do on the design standpoint of everyone maybe on the engineering side has heard of KISS before. Keep it simple, keep things simple, understand what it is that is the solution to the problem that your quote unquote customer, your partner, whatever they have as their problem. What is the easiest, simplest way to get that done? From my process engineering background, that's a big deal to me. But it's 3 simple steps, right? Quickly, important to be fast. Quickly decide on the best thing to pick. Best being something that we've kind of modified over time and understood what best really means. What is the best thing to pick? And maybe some of that's a little proprietary on how we decide the best thing, but that's what we do. And then we actually need to go pick that thing up, and then we need to do something useful with it afterwards, whether that be from things that, a combination of things that the vision system knew and could tell the robot, whether that be combinations of, layout, whether that be combinations of controls architecture, or whatever that secondary process, on the place side is. But it needs to be useful. And I don't say smart or whatever. It needs to be useful. So quickly figure out what you're going to pick up, pick it up, and do something useful. those are still the three kind of guiding principles on most of the way we approach whatever the solution or problem that the customer has. And that gets us into the next step of Plus One. If you're familiar with us, you're familiar with why we're called Plus One Robotics, right? You're familiar with Yonder or Human in the Loop. You know our approach on that long tail problem, that edge case handling. And if you think that that was a really far out idea, excuse my terrible puns, it was because the seed for Human in the Loop was planted in Eric's head, our CEO, Eric Nieves, while he was still at Motoman, still at Yaskawa. Um, Back in 2014, I mean, NASA does all kinds of cool projects all the time, and they have all their other initiatives and other companies that they work with, right? Goddard, Rocket Satellite Servicing Initiative. I just pulled this right off their website, like, last week when I put this presentation together. Um, but back in 2014, NASA got Yaskawa to give them some robots that were specialized and unique, and in order to fly something into space, grab a hold of a satellite so you could hold it still and you could refuel it. That was the process. And it was more like a surgical kind of teleoperation of every single movement is controlled and the gripper and all that type of stuff. And so since Eric was, involved in that, um, it got him thinking about, well, these really complicated things that need decisions made. It's not complicated for this robot to go grab this thing, but it's complicated in that what decision do you need to make? How do you need to grab it? Do you need to back off? Do you need to go forward? I mean, there was a whole lot of that kind of in the project, obviously because severity and risk were high. If you break a satellite, it's kind of broke forever at that point. But that was the inspiration that started Eric's thoughts on, okay, so when do you really need human in the loop, and how does that really work, and what can that really do for robotics? Again, 2014, still pre Plus One Robotics being a company of its own. And I have here, I have no audio on it. It's Eric speaking. You can find it on YouTube, but I want to have it because this was Yonder. This was when it got fully formed, maybe in 2016, in Eric's mind of what is the value of it. The value is exactly this video. With one robot, not a huge value, right? Like you just one robot, how many issues does it actually have, and what do you need to do to support that? But Yonder's view is, we say internally, thousands of crew chiefs and legions of robots, right? Like the scale side of this, which I've discussed in other webinars, and it's pretty easy mathematically to work it out. That even if you had, something that was well over 99%, can take care of all of its problems. Well, when you have 1,000 robots in your network, doing this role or multiple roles, whether it be PAL, DPAL, induction, each picking, kitting, any of these types of robotics roles, or even AMRs. You could look at like a reflexes approach currently, but at scale, that becomes a real cost and a real issue. And how do you keep that uptime? How do you keep that quality? That was the Yonder. So he explained it, and I loved this graphic. I mean, this was part of our onboarding, so I did it some years ago. You can see that in the bullet points there. I firmly believe that there is no one who buys these robots and puts them in any. I don't care if they were welding on car frames or if they're, high-speed parcel induction, in the logistics space. In part, their reason was, yeah, I don't. It's hard to get the people to do this, or it's hard to retain the people to do this, or the people don't really like doing this. So, in part, you bought the robot because you don't have enough people to do it, and so if you have people come over there all the time and help the robot out, not necessarily a very helpful robot. Maybe that's my opinion, but I think that speaks for itself. Now we'll get into a little bit of where we started, taking some of our first bumps in the road. When we started, it was all boxes and flats, and this is well before my time, right? I started here in 2021, but it was all boxes and flats, and that's just what came in the mail. That's what came and showed up on your doorstep. That was what was moving around, poly bags to some small degree, right? And then it wasn't. So I like to talk to specifically. I talked to Sean about this, since he was founder and he'd been dealing with this since 2010, 11, which was man, those must have been the days. He's like, yeah, those were the days. Like it was way easier on the computer vision side. It was way easier on the gripper side to move those. And you can see this is a demo we had built with FANUC a while back. And I point out that, part of the reason that bags got introduced, there's several. Number one, the machines that make the bags or tape the bags up, put the things in them, like that aspect of it is less expensive, less complicated than something that's, like Packmaster, where it's cutting cardboard and folding in and flipping in and taping in and putting things in. There was say a gray area or a gap in there of capability of those machines and what was really being required on the logistics of supply chain side. Did some quick math over there. And again, if you have just a cube box, kind of like that one there in the Christmas looking wrapping paper, but inside of it is, I don't know, like this mouse, right? Like a keyboard mouse, or a mouse for your computer. Like that's mostly air in there. And you see like some of the higher, estimations is, oh, it's 85% full packages. Well, I mean, that's still 15% air. And if there's something so tiny like this and you put it in a poly bag, it really doesn't even matter if the poly bag or that bag is a lot bigger than the item. Because when you start throwing them into Gaylords, you're throwing them in something to ship them in bulk, like they just all pile into each other, right? So your pack density and the amount of air you ship is unbelievably less, right? So not only does that help with, utilization of floor space and, utilization in a truck, but there there's a huge business case to be made for why the bags were when they started and those processes got in place. It just went exponentially up to bags everywhere you could possibly put bags. And we had to deal with that from a vision perspective. It's challenging, or a different challenge for sure. And from a gripping perspective, it's challenging. And so this is just some pictures from, I don't know, a couple years ago, one of my site visits out to one of our customers. And like, this is what it is now, right? That's what it used to be. And this is what we have to deal with now, at all of our deployments, around the world. Like you're going to end up dealing with, so much variety of things that are just hard to pick in situations that are hard to determine. I mean, the white poly bags there are a great example of, you need to look at that and the expectation, I don't say the expectation, the requirement is still the same. You need to pick one. You need to pick it at this rate. You can't have this many double picks, quality. Like that doesn't change. Like, oh, on white packages, you can do worse. And on the easy packages, we'll just hold you to a better standard. I mean, the standard is high across there, right? So it's from our side, that brought in new challenges, right? And we had to adapt and, adapt the way we did vision, or adapt the way we wanted to apply our AI to things, or adapt the way that the software worked. Or to my first bullet point there, and the less obvious problem is we had to say this gripper doesn't work. And we, use small grippers, we use PIAB, we have a variety of companies that we work for or work with on there. And it's like, hey, what do you have for this, guys? Because this is the problem. We send the robot, it goes down there, but doesn't pick it up, or it doesn't hold it, or it flings it and drops it around a lot. So through the course of all that adapting that has happened to our end users, a lot of them don't have controller packaging. We had to continue to make sure that we adapted with them so that the solutions and the way we approached the problem and what we told them we could do was true, and it was still useful, right? We see it, we pick it, and do something useful after that. And now I'm going to get into the physics side. Don't worry, guys. There's no formulas in here. And also, sorry, guys, if you wanted to see some formulas. So Newton says no. What I'm talking about there is gravity, right? Or, vacuum retention force, things like that. But everyone here that's, Eric, Sean, Christina, I think she's been here now like 7 years, 6 years. So like everyone that's been here for a long time, Paul could tell you the same thing. Like, we did not want to get into making grippers. We're computer vision software. We wanted to stay in our lane in there, but we had to get into grippers because our vision system could see and identify the item, and we would send the robot there to go pick it up, and it wouldn't be able to grasp it. And I'll go through a quicker little rundown on this table here, but essentially, this was, we'll call that 2016. This little white plastic 4 Venturis on some poly bag cups. Uh, and that worked fine for a little while, and then it didn't, right? Especially when the bags started coming in. And then we got into this kind of gripper design, and that was okay. The one issue that it started having was, well, oh, it doesn't have any compliance. It just has like this 1 inch of compliance of the cups, and that's it. And if there's something lumpy inside of a bag, or an irregular shaped item, kind of has a hard time gripping it. So we're like, we're gonna put it all on a spring, and then it'll be, oh man, look, it's got 4 inches of compliance. That lasted a hot 5 days on site. And we went back to the other gripper because the gripper itself didn't need to be compliant towards the robot. It needed to be compliant within itself, which is where you get this gray one with the green cups on it in this picture, which is every single cup is compliant on its own, individually compliant. Very lightweight spring in there. There's manifold in there, so you don't vacuum leak, things like that. But this was our first kind of aha moment on our grippers, which is like the best example I can give, since I can't hand it to you guys and let you hold it, is that little toy you can buy like as a kid, and it's got all the like pins in it. You can put your hand in it and it pops them up, or put a toy in it, makes like the cool shape on the other side. That's essentially how that works, right? I can, have a softball in a poly bag that looks flat vision, but when you actually go to grab it, there's going to be a hard softball in there. This would be compliant around there, so then we can actually pick it up. There was some toying around with different suction cups as well, but that was like, oh man, now we can pick up all these things, and let's go approach, the customers now like, hey, we have a way to do this. And then we did, and we picked it, and those were successes there. And then again, things changed in the supply chain, things changed at the customer, and they needed XYZ metric. Hey, this thing's doing great. We love this robot, but it got 2% double picks, and we really want that to be less than 1%. Like that would be very helpful on our operation side. It would free up jackpot lanes or hospitals, whatever that, the downstream implications are. And we're like, okay, well, let's go and Pareto out, what's going on, and vision side, gripper side, robot side. And what we found out was that all of these on this side, they may have a lot of cups on them, right? But they're just one big vacuum chamber. Every cup's on or every cup is off. And we're like, okay, well, that's part of the problem, because the gripper touches items that it's not supposed to pick just because the items are small or they're in piles. And there's just no way to actually make the gripper not touch other things. And so we made this switch plate up here, and we put it on a newer, version 3 or whatever that stage was of this black gripper. And so, okay, well, now we can do 2 cups and 3 cups and 7 cups and 10 cups. Like we can have configurations of which cups have vacuum and which cups do not. So we can actually send it down and just turn on 3 cups and pick up this small thing while we're, touching another item, and we won't pick it up because it doesn't have vacuum. And that did help a lot. There was more successes from there. But then it was the same kind of, things change, things adapt, and they said, well, it's really great that we're at 0.9%, say double picks or amnesty, but we really would be great to be at 0.5%. So being empathetic and understanding their side of it, like, okay, well, what is it that's stopping us from getting there? Like the vision's doing a great job. We're giving great pick points. We're fast. Our first pass yield's a lot better. But yeah, we do have these. We call them tag-alongs. We do have these that are stuck between a cup and an item that we have vacuum on, and they're just stuck between the two, and they're just coming along for the ride. So how do we eliminate that? And that brings us to this final one down here, which is the individual cup controlled gripper. This is like the first prototype, a few years back now, where all the cups are actually retracted and they only extend on the ones that are needed. So now you have dissimilar levels. So if these cups have vacuum and these don't, it doesn't matter because nothing's going to get trapped between the two of them. And that way we'd eliminate that issue, being that that was the most common problem that we had at that point after we did zoning control. And now I'll give you guys a little bit of sneak peek of what will be coming up at the end of April for the next webinar. But the individual cup control gripper was designed in with all the experience and knowledge of adapting over time with our customers from the package changes and understanding what they actually need out of this robot job, out of this robot application. And a few things had to be accepted for us to kind of come up with this design and this approach, which was that in order for the gripper to be able to pick up the variety of things that come down the bulk in feed, that come down to the robot that our customers have to deal with, the gripper is going to be bigger than a lot of things that it has to pick up. And there's a lot of things that it has to pick up that are going to be a lot bigger than the gripper. So where do you balance those two, say, ratios together in order to be able to pick up all of the things that they need to pick up from a payload and a size perspective? Do it stably, do it with control. So you got to accept that. So if you do accept that, and you say, well, okay, the most important thing for rate, right? And so that's going to be a big part of your, ROI calculation, just from a financial perspective, is, the cost per pick. How do we make sure the rate's going to be there is first pass yield. We see an item, we go down, we pick it up the first time, right? And not two items, only the one item that we're supposed to pick. That is kind of the two core exceptions or two core things that you need to understand and accept. Then you can come up with this design, which I love this design. And maybe you say I'm biased, but I love the design. The gripper is very lightweight and it does exactly to the point of what all of our, 8 years or more in parcel induction feedback was from our customers and from, what we experienced just going through it with them. Just checking my time here. All right, now here's the sad stories, right? And this is something I'll give you guys an analogy from my BMW repairs and race car days, which is the customer knows what they want, but not what they. And I tell my technicians this a lot. They want a car that they get in, they turn it on, and they drive to work. What they need is an alternator because their alternator is bad and it's not charging the battery. They know what they want. They want this reliable car, but what they need is X, Y, Z. It's incumbent upon us, on our partners, to really embrace that and understand that if people are asking you for something, customers, or whoever you're interfaced with, they're asking for something, they need something. They just might not know what they need, and it's important for you to know what they need and understand it. So this was like, oh man, about 4.5, 5 years ago now, and I kept my Thomas Edison quote up there. I've used that one in my life more than once on myself, maybe more than 10,000 times on myself. Hopefully, some of you guys are in the same boat with me. I'm not the only one, but I could list out more failure modes on here than could ever fit on this screen, but I think it's pretty obvious in this first section of this video. Robot one will say that right-hand robot, it's not doing anything. Like it's doing zero work. It is very bad. It's going to hurt your throughput, and then underutilized robots are just expensive paperweights. Also, there's a huge footprint. This is a giant machine. The suction cups on it currently did not work very well for many of the items that we had to pick up. It was very difficult to recover errors. I generally said there was no way to recover errors because too many belts were in constant movement, so they just kind of got on those and off they went. Nothing you could do about it. Um, the architecture from a physical standpoint and control standpoint to some degree, like even if you're doing everything right in your happy path, you block yourself a lot. Like the robots block each other on work. So that wasn't good. And then just in general, back to size, pick and place distances are super critical for throughput, whether that be on PAL, DPAL, on parcel induction. The bottleneck is the robot, right? So the shortest distance you can make it pick and place, um, the higher machine rate we have, which means a better average throughput. But this was a tough one, right? And we had to, go back with the customer and say, this is not useful. This is not a good solution. And they're like, yeah, yeah. Did you just figure that out on your own? It's like, yeah, we know. So we had to have that hard conversation and understand with them, okay, we all thought this was going to be great. It's not that it doesn't do it. It doesn't do it in a useful way. So what is it? Like technically it's doing the work, but what is it that's not useful? So it took some months and we came back with something very successful, something that was successful enough to scale out and make a big impact on the operation. Uh, and was well received by the operations teams, well received by those that it was installed in, essentially doing the same, different buildings than that building, but essentially the same type of thing, same type of process, and understanding where that fit really was going to be most impactful. And you'll see it here. And these robots are not doing anything. They're so smart that they're waiting for the conveyor to start back up so that they can get back to work. This was the solutions. This was the solution that took off, scaled out with this customer. And there was a lot of things that we learned that we brought to this. One of these was kind of what I said earlier, standardize on your success. These are all modules. So they're all identical modules. There's 4 modules here, and the modules from site to site are all also identical. So from a training perspective, a maintenance perspective, a spare parts perspective, a programming, updating, revising perspective, um, and an installing perspective, everything was quicker, easier, and we'll say more correct at the first at bat. So this was highly successful, and you can see kind of the operations teams down there where they still have their packages to induct, but they're not expected to induct 1,000 or 1,200 onto these sorters anymore. They basically need to do somewhere around 600 of them, right? 300 to 600, and mostly they just check some of the work of the robot. Because what we understood, really, getting and speaking with the customer, that's why I have empathy for the customer there, understanding that they have a problem and they want a solution to it. Then I know exactly what they need, but through conversations with them, understanding where that impact was going to be, where our technology, our approach, our solution can fit in, what we can actually do and what we can't actually do, and being honest about it and realistic about the possibilities, that brought us to this point. And um, again, this was one of my favorite site visits that I ever did. Now I was here for like 2.5 weeks. Just love watching all four of these robots just work together. And they're doing like 4,500 boxes an hour, just like 14 hours a day, just watching them work and sweat, robots sweating. It's good to see. All right. That brings us all the way up. That's about to 2022. So that catches us all the way up on our kind of origin story, thought processes, kind of where we're at, how we work with our partners and customers. And so I'm going to leave you guys only with this picture of what we're going to talk about next, which is Induct One, how we got there, and kind of what it is. And that's it. Just kidding, guys. I'm not that mean. I wish I could be that mean. I'll actually give you guys a quick recap. So Plus One, truly kind of technology foundation was laid in 2011 with Sean over at Willow Garage when he first started saying, I want open source stuff to be able to talk to industrial robots and go do something useful. And I say robot decision making, right? Robots,
Hey,
making,
really quick, Alex.
yeah, you're good, dude.
Just in case people don't know who Sean is,
Oh, yeah, fair. Go ahead.
oh,
Oh,
no,
yeah, okay. Sean Edwards is our CTO. One of our co-founders, Eric Nieves, Sean, and Balbas, are founders and co-founders. So Sean is our CTO because he knows all about, you know, vision systems and software systems communicating with a variety of industrial robots because he created Ross Industrial, which plenty of people still use, some of them that compete with us as well. But, it's a nice guy, so he shares in the real open source way. So the robot decision making, that's still where we're at today, and just that those foundations were laid early in us, and they were kept simple, to keep us, pointed in the direction that we know to be useful. Um, NASA, thanks NASA, appreciate you planting the human in the loop seed in Eric's mind. I love that because I think that's a really big part of why we've been able to get to 1.5 billion picks and continue to get more and more every day and get more installs is part of that uh, green button, robots work, you go do your job, red button, you go home, that approach, because most of the issues can be solved with a decision. Pick this or don't pick this. Purge the belt. That is truly an empty pallet. It's just quick decisions that need to be made, and that's makes it much easier on our customers and their operations teams. Obviously, the poly bags, if anyone's in the space, y'all are familiar with it. They cause plenty of problems outside of robotics and grasping as well. But it's eye-hand coordination. We still view it the same way, even if we're primarily just, installing software on our partners, robots. I do want to keep on the point of that we're not batting 1,000%. We've installed things that have not worked. We've have tried things that have not worked. We have went down roads and have wasted time trying to figure them out through the essentially since 2013 and 2014 and pre even plus one days, where we're trying to understand exactly what it is to present a solution or to install a solution for a customer that is useful. That is a good system. That is a useful tool. I tell people all the time, it's like the power drill, right? Like no one's, you know what you expect out of your DeWalt power drill. It's like I put a battery on, I put the bit in, and like I just use it. I mean, I don't care how advanced the automation gets. That's also what people, still want out of it. But when you are successful, recognizing that what made it successful, and being able to compartmentalize that and then start repeating it, which is again to where you're going to see with Induct One later in the month when I talk about how we brought all those successes into one machine. And we do a lot of the last point. I didn't speak on this too much in the webinar, but when we learn stuff as we've gone on with new customers, we talk to our old customers and say, hey, we've done this in the future, with XYZ. I think this could also be applicable to, whatever else you may be. So don't forget about your old customers when you're learning stuff from your new customers. And understand again, a core value for us is being empathetic and honest with our with our end users and our partners on what their needs and preferences are. Kind of like our agnosticness with robots. We have robots out there. I mean, I don't know, 8 or 9 different brands now where this customer says got to be a Yaskawa, that's us, or got to be Fennec, or we want this Kawasaki one because we already had Kawasaki robots, or we're an ABB house, like whatever it is that that customer needs or their preferences are valuable. And understanding those and working inside those constraints are the way to provide them value. And then my last I put in there in bold is, obviously our motto, robots work, people rule, but it's further than that. It's still to our three fundamental kind of back end, which is decide what to pick quickly, go pick it and do something useful. Just make sure that as you're putting the automation out there, specifically in the robotic side, that that it is useful for them. It supports the people working beside it day in and day out. It actually makes their job easier, makes their job better. It maybe opens up, doors for them to be more impactful in their organization because the robot's doing the DDD and they're able to go do stuff that people are great with. That's all I got, Lisa.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Any questions? Jeffrey?
Yeah, just thinking, what's next? What do you see as the next challenge? You're right. Bags came in and kind of disrupted things. Do you
Yeah.
see anything from the customer coming that might
Yeah,
come next that might drive changes, or is it just going to be
yeah.
incremental improvements to what you already got?
Some of the big changes that let's say are already, we're already dealing with, especially on the EU side of our systems, which we have quite a lot out there. Um, Shipping things in original containers. It's getting more common, and I think will become more common, specifically over the next, say, 5 years, maybe a little longer, as manufacturers, let's just call them that, manufacturers, where the actual source of the item came from that you bought, uh, may may tend to put things in packaging that don't need tertiary packaging, so like a more robust packaging. So I think and then there's obviously the cost of tertiary packaging. If you can eliminate, there's some cost there. So I think shipping in original container is going to present new gripping and vision challenges, no doubt. And like I said, we've already kind of experienced that in Europe to a reasonable degree. And then so we have some changes coming there, some less incremental than others. Um, Another one is working around different different labels, different types of labels and applications of labels. Again, a lot of this changes that are coming are going to be, net carbon measurements, I'll say, is the general topic. Where you're at with that, where you're at with sustainability, reliability, as far as like, let's not use 40% of all the oil that we pull out of the world to make plastic bags, right? To what extent can we just use that oil for like fuel or some, say, more high value things and medical stuff versus like bags that we're just shipping, you know, things that don't need to be in plastic. I'm shipping a bunch of, USB drives, so I'm going to put them in, a plastic bag. To that degree, I see a lot changing on the packaging side with smart packaging. I think on the cardboard side of the world, as far as boxes, I think they're going to get a little bit of a bump back up due to some of the, we'll call it just in time smart sizing. But I think a lot of it's going to be around the sustainability side, which creates its own issues, and from a grasping perspective and from a durability perspective. So maybe, so there's going to be some bigger changes coming around grasping strength as far as either suction or whatever you have there. So I think there'll be incremental, but I think there'll be some big title kind of shifts in that too. But maybe not in the next 3 years, but a little bit after that. At least that's the feedback that I get and what I see.
You may have noticed too, like when you guys, if you order something on Amazon, sometimes it gives you the option to ship in its original package or to, choose another box. So
Yep.
that's an example, like we're already seeing it really,
Yep.
maybe more so in Europe than in the US though.
Yeah. But it's a good question, Jeffrey, and it's coming. I mean, if we learn anything in the last whatever 12 years of, Sean and the team and plus one coming around, is that we're in a very rapid changing time in supply chain, not the least of which was, a huge spike obviously during COVID times. Everyone's, locked up and having to get everything shipped anyway. But that just didn't really go away, right? It kind of rebounded back, but it's going back up. But the more and more we see with companies and organizations that are embracing online platforms and are embracing other types of just in time, next day, like Amazon, like you get most like a X number of items in 2 hours. Like as that starts to become more and more um, even a greater volume of the economy than it currently is, uh, all of those pressures are going to get pushed back onto the supply chain. So there's going to be more and more rapid change. What is it? Henry Ford said, "What auto racing started 5 minutes after the second car was built." Like that's that. Like it's going to be that type of challenge between your DHLs and your FedEx and UPSs, Purolator up in Canada and all your localities through there, where they're going to continue to be battling it out and betting on it. And I think if you've looked at the news, you've probably seen how much volatility is going on in the world with changes in pricing and changes in service offerings or mergers or breakups of certain supply chain companies. So I don't think we're out of the woods yet in any steady state. I'll put it that way.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Can you flip to the next slide? Great.
Boom.
So this is, hang on a second, go back one.
Boom.
All right. So this is where we're gonna be on the road over the next couple months. If you're gonna be at any of these events, let us know. We'd love to meet up with you. So first up is the National Postal Forum in Nashville, Tennessee. Our CEO, Eric, is going to be speaking with Lou Finazzo, I believe it is, from FANUC, on our work that we do with the U.S. Postal Service. And then next is the Robotic Summit and Expo in Boston. So Avi Barquet is going to be there. He's part of our leadership as well. And then we've got the MHI Spring Meeting, of course, in Houston at the beginning of May, and then Automate. So Automate is the next big show for us in Detroit, and that's going to be May 12th through 15th. And if you click on the next slide, we're hosting an event with Yaskawa. So if you're going to be at Automate, please RSVP. We'd love to see you there. This is Yaskawa's event, but we're, excited to be sponsoring this with them. So it's going to be on the second day of the event, May 13th, 6 o'clock. It's at this awesome venue called the Waterview Loft. It's just a short walk from the convention center, and it overlooks the water. It's really nice. So here's a QR code if you want to go ahead and RSVP. And, we'll be pushing this out, reminding you to RSVP over the next few weeks as well, just because, we'd love to see as many of you there as possible. And one more slide. Okay. The next installment of our webinar series is going to be at the regularly scheduled time, which is the fourth Wednesday of the month. That's incorrect. The last Wednesday of the month, so April 30th. We're going to continue this conversation. And if you want to go ahead and RSVP now, you may do so here with the QR code. And that is it. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us, and hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. All right. We'll see you
Thanks,
soon.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You as well, brother.